Hello and welcome to GNY Sports, a side quest of Good News York. That's right, I'm your host, Mike Brindisi. Follow me on all socials at MikeBTV. GNY Sports and Good News York. You can find all episodes on all of our socials at Good News York or goodnewsyork.com and anywhere you listen or download or stream podcasts as well. A lot to get into as always. I am going to start off with a rant, okay? I'm going to lay it out there. Now, here's the deal. At this point, if you've been watching or listening, you know I'm a gigantic Bills fan, okay? They just beat the Florida Panthers, that's hockey, the Carolina Panthers 40-9. I should be glowing. I have experienced a lot in my years as a Bills fan. This is one of the very few times where not only has my team won, but they've blown the other team out, and I'm still pissed off. How can you say that? I know what you're thinking. It's like you beat the team 40-9, and you're like, well, that long snapper was just a little off. Or like someone gets a promotion, and they're like, well, I just think my boss felt bad for me. You know, I'm kind of being a Debbie Downer, but you got to remember something. You can take the Bills fan out of the drought, but you cannot take the drought out of the Bills fan. It was traumatizing, which is why this bullshit with the Patriots finally returning to a bit of form has been frustrating. Look, for me, watching that Panthers game, we didn't win. I feel like we just delayed the pain. I know, I sound like a spoiled brat. This team has won the division 5 years in a row. But as I mentioned, this was a 17-year playoff drought, okay? We are in year 8 with the McDermott as head coach, Brandon Beane as GM, and Josh Allen as the QB, and we are still dealing with issues that we dealt with in year 1. And that is surrounding Josh Allen with elite receivers. Now look, the receiving core that the Bills have is good. It's very good. But you have to understand that there are different styles of wide receivers. You have slots, you have power slots, you have yak wide receivers who are great at short to intermediate passes, and they get most of their yards after the catch, yak. There are boundary receivers, X receivers. There are different styles, and when you have, it's almost like basketball, you know, you don't always have a traditional forward and center, and you mix and match, shooting forward, shooting guard. You know, it's kind of the same thing. Khalil Shakir is a fantastic yak slot receiver. He's not he can play on the outside and play the boundary a little bit, but that's not really his game. He's better suited as a complementary piece to someone who is on the outside. So I know that the Bills went out and Brandon Beane made a big splash for Stephon Diggs, but we all know how that ended. And since, other than Diggs, before Diggs and now post Diggs, there's kind of this attitude, and it's widely known as everybody eats. Everybody eats as far as the receiving core. Here's the problem. Nobody's mouth is open to eat, okay? I love Brandon Beane. I love Sean McDermott, and I have been just, I don't want to say a sympathizer. I've been a defender of sorts because, look, in this fan base, as you can see, we kind of tend to be knee-jerk sometimes. But for me, this is not knee-jerk. What Brandon Beane has done is phenomenal. The first draft he ever was a part of, I wanted 3 particular guys. I wanted Josh Allen, I wanted Tremaine Edmonds, and I wanted Harrison Phillips. Not only did he draft them, he drafted them in that order. So immediately I fell in love with this guy. I'm like, he gets it, finally. Well, look, Brandon Beane has also missed on a lot. And all GMs do, to be fair. The problem is Brandon Beane has whiffed on a lot of early round picks, your first and second round. He's hit a lot in the late rounds. He's got your Christian Benfords and other players of that sort that are great talents that he got later. And that's awesome. But we're 8 years in, and we have still yet to really, truly, other than Josh Allen and maybe a few others, really hit. And this recycling of other players coming back because they know the system can only work. So here we are we're going into week 9, I think. Week 8, week 9, and we're still going, man, Josh Allen just needs one more elite receiver that can get separation and get open downfield like he needed before Diggs. And Brandon Beane famously went on a Bills radio show on Bills Radio right after this past draft in 25 and lit up the hosts for saying while he was on hold waiting to be interviewed, he heard them overheard them talking about how they should value receiver a little bit more. And he went off on them, which is completely out of character. And again, I love Brandon Beane, but at some point, you've got to hold him accountable in some areas. And for it to be year 8, and once again, just like last season and the season before that, about midseason, the Bills hit a lull. They lose 2 games in a row. They never lose 3, and they haven't yet. And you make a trade or you fire the offensive coordinator. 2 seasons ago, they fired Ken Dorsey, and Joe Brady stepped in, and it worked. And they got that bump they needed, and they did well, and of course, they lost in the playoffs. Last year, same thing, having trouble in the passing game, specifically downfield. Traded for Amari Cooper. At some point, and that's fine, but there's a host on Bills Radio, Jeremy White, who made up a great point that I never thought of considering drafting and signing free agents, which is, it's great that Brandon Beane is aggressive enough to know, hey, we need to grab a receiver midseason, or we need to grab this midseason. But if you draft receivers and they work out, you have them on a rookie contract. You're signing receivers where you're not only giving away draft picks anyway, which is what you do in the draft, but now you're taking on a contract and it costs more. So not only is it better to obviously hit on young talent, it's cheaper from a business standpoint. And we all know the NFL is a business. There were many drafts where I saw mid to late round wide receivers that he could have and should have taken a shot at and passed on. More notably, traded with their Chiefs, the Chiefs, their rivals, and the Chiefs ended up taking Xavier Worthy, who's been a great piece for that offense. So it's very frustrating. Yes, I like the Bills receivers, but they would be great as a piece in a better offense. I said a week or 2 ago, if you want to beat the Bills, take away the middle of the field, because they can only throw it behind the line of scrimmage or midfield. They do not have guys that can get open downfield. And to further my point, it's even worse than I thought. Josh Allen got sacked in this game against the Panthers. It was like a 10 or 11 second play, which means that man extended that play for 11 seconds and still nobody could get open. I don't understand it. Joe Brady stuck to the toss play to James Cook, throw a orbit motion or a screen pass to Shakir and let him get yak yards, and then throw an incomplete as he tries to force it to Keon Coleman or someone else who isn't open. Josh Palmer obviously being out. Kincaid not reliable because he's been getting hurt off and on. It's very frustrating. So yes, James Cook carved it up, a historical performance, 200 yards on the ground. And they put 40 points on the board. That's because Josh Allen got tush pushed twice, and because James Cook got in the end zone twice. The passing game was barely a factor, and when it was yak yards or tunnel screens, and that's fine. But as I said, we're just furthering the pain, because what's going to happen this weekend against the Chiefs? It's going to be a mess. Now, here's the good news. Max Hairston, their first-round pick corner, who I wanted. So thank you, Brandon Beane, for that. He finally played his first game and looked good. Michael Hoyt and Larry Ogunjobi off of suspension. They finally played their first game. And Michael Hoyt was involved in almost every single play, and they lost Ed Oliver. So shot themselves in the foot. 3 steps forward, 1 step back. Or 1 step forward, 3 steps back. So the defense has gotten better. It looks like Sean McDermott is finally calling plays. I don't know if he's calling all the plays, but it's been reported, and you can see him on the sideline. He's at least vetoing plays, or he's involved somehow, which I do like. The problem with the offense, other than the fact that they need someone that can get open downfield, is that I heard a point the other day that just really hit me, and that was that even, let's say, right now, this isn't going to happen, but let's just say the Bills traded for like a Jamar Chase, right? Or Justin Jefferson, a true elite receiver. It's not going to happen. Just bear with me. I honestly don't know how Joe Brady would use him, Because if you remember, when Ken Dorsey got fired and Joe Brady stepped in as the interim, Stephon Diggs, who was the number one receiver in Buffalo at the time, his production dropped drastically, and we all thought we knew it was a little bit of Brady targeting him less, but we thought, so something's going on with Diggs and Allen. And then I look at this year's offense and the wide receivers they have. They've got some speed. They've got an Elijah Moore. They've got Shakir. They've got Coleman, okay? They've got Curtis Samuel, who's been non-existent or injured. So there are guys that I'm just not seeing. There's not a huge route tree for these guys. I don't understand. Is it truly that they can't get open? Yes, on the downfield plays. Again, we saw it on that 10-second blitz. Or I'm sorry, 10-second play where Allen got sacked and couldn't find anybody. But I'm not sure if Joe Brady is using these receivers to their full potential. You know, if we look here, I want to throw up a video where Keon Coleman is, to me, again, see now Keon Coleman is not doing great as a number one or even a number two receiver at this point. But you know what he might be good at? Being a power slot in addition to an X receiver, a boundary receiver. One of the only couple of highlights that I can think of Keon Coleman over the last few seasons is when he's running crossers. And this goes back to what I said about Brady maybe not using the wide receivers correctly, I guess, for lack of a better term. Because let's take a look here. This was the one thing where Keon Coleman stood out in the draft. And it was the shuttle drill. I believe that's what this is called. And it's where you are supposed to run across and catch multiple passes and try to stay the course. He did it better than anybody. I mean, he's right on the line. So it makes sense to me that of the few plays where I've seen him shine, I do remember, yes, there were a couple contested catches. He's better at crossers. Why isn't Joe Brady having Keon Coleman run crossers more? Take a look at right here.
In Kansas City that night. Yes.
Straight. That's so hard to do. He's focusing on the ball.
Coleman's well done. He was flying.
Yeah, so not only did he have the speed, he was on just a perfect line. So why don't we see more of that? You know, I'm not a football coach. I don't claim to be. So I don't know. But then there's other things that Keon Coleman's done. And sometimes it's the little things or the things that you don't think are something that tell you more. One example is in this game against the Panthers. He ran I don't know if it was a curl route, but I know he ran out, he had stopped, he had turned around, which, you know, receivers are taught that in zone coverage, find a hole, turn around, sit there. The problem is he sat there like he had cement in his ass. You also have to, if the defender is coming over your shoulder and the pass is coming to you, you want to go to the ball. He just sat there and the defender's coming over his shoulder and he's waiting. And sure enough, defender reaches, luckily didn't get picked off, he got tipped. So there's like little fundamentals of the game that he's missing, and he's still considered a young receiver, but you know, the Bills are Super Bowl or bust. We can't be worrying about receivers that you're relying on, not doing the basic fundamentals. And I don't know what's going on with Allen. And this, I hate saying this. I've said it before, and I think I was right, because I have no proof. But when you watch a team as closely as Bills fans do, right, or as I do, you know when certain things are off. And, you know, Josh Allen, I want to take a look at this picture. See that look? That's how he's looked the last couple weeks. That's also how he looked when he was going through some BS. It had been reported he'd been going through some BS with his ex-girlfriend right before they had broke up, or as they were breaking up, which was also around the time he was going through all of that well-documented drama with Stephon Diggs. There just was something wrong. It was also the same look he had when he got hurt. There's been a few times where he's gotten hurt and he didn't miss any games, knock on wood, but you knew, and he's the type of guy, he doesn't tell you when he's hurt. He doesn't even mention it, which is kind of badass, because I'm not like that. I'm like, oh God, I think something's wrong. Can we get a medical staff, please? Medical staff. You know, there's no way I'd be able to hide it. I'd be making every excuse. I'd be at every press conference going, well, I could have made the pass if my shoulder didn't hurt. You know, he does it the right way. But so it could be many things. I'm not saying he's having problems with his wife. I don't know anything about that. And from what I've heard, he's completely happy. I can only speculate there's something going on in the locker room. Clearly, the passing game is a problem. Maybe that's it. Maybe he's bucking heads with players or coaches. Maybe he is hurt because he hasn't been playing up to his MVP caliber at all. He's like 20th in the league in passing. And listen, as much as the guys can't get open, there have been times where he's missed a couple guys that he should have made it, and he knows it. So that face right there is what I've been seeing lately, which is the same face I've seen in the past when things aren't going well, and that's kind of where we're at. So I don't know, guys. I know this team, the sky isn't falling, but we are in year 8. It is Super Bowl or bust. And we can pretty much guarantee Bean's going to go spend a pick and money on picking up somebody that can get open downfield. And I'm not even sure that's a guarantee. Because even when Amari Cooper came along midseason, he helped in a way that when he was on the field, he drew more attention from the defenders. But he never was really a huge factor as far as X's and O's go. So even if they do grab someone, they've got to build chemistry with Allen. Not all of it can be instant. There are certain things that translate team by team, but it's not going to be perfect. So I'm really worried. We are in year 8. The Pats, as I called, are now a threat for the division. It's ridiculous that it's year 8 and we're still going through this. You have an elite quarterback. One of, if not the best quarterback in the NFL right now. And you've just surrounded him with mediocre talent. And some elite talent at times, Stephon Diggs. What are we doing besides wasting time? 40-9 over the Panthers? Awesome. That's what you should have done. The defense should have played well. James Cook, I don't know if he should have run for 200 yards. I knew he was going to have a big game, but you did what you were supposed to do. And I'm happy. But what's going to happen next week against the Chiefs? We don't have the horses. So hopefully Brandon Beane and the Bills get it figured out. Because I just want one before I die. I want to talk about this sports betting scandal a little bit. I mean, it's been all over and well documented, so I'm not going to go too much into it. It'd be kind of stupid if I didn't talk about it at least. And the reason I want to talk about it, man, because here's the thing. As soon as you hear about sports betting scandals, the first thing you hear is, well, this is why gambling shouldn't be legal, which I completely disagree. When this was going on when gambling wasn't legal. In fact, it was probably going on more. So to say, oh, see, there's sports betting scandals in the NBA and in wherever. There's not more sports betting scandals because it's legalized. In fact, I think it would be the other way around. I think it's monitored more. They have to. There's much more transparency these days with social media and technology. So if anything, it should make the conspiracy theorists go, oh, so maybe everything isn't rigged because people are catching it. They are monitoring it. I don't know what the answer is. Obviously, I don't know what the protocol is in these leagues to monitor the players, coaches, any faculty, staff, behavior. They have ways to track all that. So I don't know if they need to adjust that, enhance it. I mean, that's the obvious. Advertising, I've heard like maybe they should stop advertising because it is funny. They're like, welcome to the DraftKings postgame show. Let's talk about how gambling's bad. It's not a good look. So you got to understand that sports gambling is a business, and there are companies like DraftKings and FanDuel and Caesars and all that, and they have to advertise. And where else are they going to advertise? Their target audience are sports fans. They have to advertise at arenas and on sports websites and anything involving sports or athletes. Same way, back in the day, you're homesick from school eating ginger ale, watching The Price is Right, and it's all dish soap commercials and laundry detergent because at that time, a lot of stay-at-home moms or dads, that was their target audience, and that's when they're home. So you can't really take the advertising out of it, but there are little things we can do. Like I said, like, hey, welcome to the DraftKings post show. Or this blew my mind. As I'm preparing stuff for the show, I go to ESPN and I click on the NBA tab, and here you see it says, when we were at our lowest, the man didn't blink. What Cade Cunningham is building in Detroit. Isn't that nice? And right under it is a picture that says NBA betting. Is it worth betting on Cade Cunningham to win MVP this season? Yikes. You're in the middle of a fucking huge sports betting scandal. And I don't know if it's the editors at ESPN. I don't know. I mean, I'm not trying to point the finger at anyone in particular, but I think there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen and we're not tying up the loose ends because right now, that is hilariously ironic and not a good look and not one of the steps that I have written down towards working on fixing this kind of thing. I do have some really dumb ideas though, because that's all I can think of. You know, I'm not any sort of sports executive if you didn't know. But I'm a fan. And as all fans do, all of this huge betting scandal was thought-provoking. And I thought, well, how can they enforce it more? They can monitor it, add more security. But what about punishments, right? Like, I was watching this episode of Black Mirror on Netflix. And wow, one politician had to save this princess. This is fictional. Save some, like, duchess in Europe. And she had been kidnapped and held hostage. And the only way he could do it was to make love to a pig on live TV. Now, I am not saying we need to make love to pigs on live TV, but it got me thinking. What if there are just like little things we could do that you can only hit these athletes and owners and coaches in the pocket so much? They've got a lot of money. Fines, suspensions, barring them, obviously that works. We need to spice it up. Just add a little something extra. So the next time they're thinking about betting when they shouldn't, they're not going to want to face the consequences. Like imagine if they had to do a press conference, but with a shock collar. And when they say a certain word that we won't even tell them what that word is, right? Or what if they have to sing every press conference? I don't know how to sing. Exactly, but you have to do it. What if a coach or a player has to dress like a mascot for the entire season if he gets caught sporting, in addition to other things? I love that. What if they had to daily do a press conference where they read every negative tweet about themselves? And this is one of my favorites. Every game or match, depending on the sport, there's multiple people that are usually either too drunk, getting in trouble for fighting, getting removed. If a fan gets removed or in trouble in any sort for fighting, being too drunk, they have to sleep over your house that night. You have to host all of the people that got kicked out of the game and deal with that. I know, dumb. But I'm just trying to think of things that could curtail all this funny business with the gambling. Tell me your ideas, because I know they're much better than mine. Comment below. What are some ideas for punishment for players, coaches, execs that illegally gamble in sports? I want to talk a little baseball, because right now the World Series is clearly just awesome. And the Dodgers are back in it. The Dodgers are reminding me of the 90s Yankees. They're just incredible. Freddie Freeman, man. Freddie Freeman is a player's player, man. I don't know how you're not a fan of this dude. He is so clutch, and clutch is a subjective word, but I've got some hardcore proof on just how clutch Freddie Freeman has been and is. If you're watching the game last night, he hit a walk-off home run. Oh, was it walk-off? I think it was walk-off. Yes. He's the first player in World Series history with multiple walk-off home runs, first of all. This was in the 18th inning of Game 3 last night. It is the longest World Series game ever played, and in the 18th inning, Freeman hit a leadoff walk-off home run against the Blue Jays to give the Dodgers a 6-5 victory. But that is not the first time he did that. In fact, if you remember last year against the Yankees, motherfucker had a Game 1 walk-off grand slam to win 6-3. But if you remember before that, he played for ever with the Braves. And in the 2021 NLCS, he had a clinching final out. He fielded the final out at first base and threw his hands up in celebration, which, I mean, that's not exciting, but hey, he had the last out. Also, NLDS Game 4 in 21, he had a go-ahead home run that was off the Brewers, off of Josh Hader, actually, to send the Braves to the NLCS. Also, in the 21 World Series, he famously caught the final out in Game 6 against the Houston Astros. And in 2021, again, he hit the home run, the finale home run versus the Phillies. It turned out to be his final regular season at bat with the Braves. He hit a go-ahead home run against the Phillies to clinch the National League East Division title. This dude is just, Freddie Freeman is so clutch, and he's so fun to watch, and he's so passionate. When the Braves did not sign him and decided to go with Matt Olson instead, he cried. He loved being a Brave. I don't think he's crying anymore, because not only is he winning World Series left and right, he's a huge part of that. It's just amazing. I looked this up too. This is some of the other clutch players that come to mind in baseball when you think clutch as of recently. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani, Jose Altuve, Mookie Betts, Paul Goldschmidt. Fine. Here is WPA. It's win probability added. I'm not a huge stats guy, but when you're making some sort of fun, subjective claim in sports, if you can back it with stats, it gives you a little oomph. And I looked it up. While determining a single most clutch player is difficult, this WPA metric provides an objective ranking for clutch performance since 2015. So in the last 10 years, win probability added, WPA. So in other words, here's stats. The last 10 years, the 5 most clutch players in baseball. Number 4, Jose Ramirez, constant high performer. Mookie Betts, Jorge Polanco, second overall as of late 2025. And Freddie Freeman, number 1, leads all hitters in WPA. Dude's a beast. So shout out to Freddie Freeman and the Dodgers. Don't count the Blue Jays out yet. This is an amazing series to watch. But my God, got to give Freddie Freeman his props. This past week, Aaron Rodgers was facing his old team, the Green Bay Packers. And had he had won, he would have been the 5th quarterback all time to beat all 32 teams. And then my wife came out and she had trivia, which I love. I think it's sexy that my wife loves sports. And when she busts trivia out, but anyway, here are your 3 trivia questions. Answer them below. I will give you the answer in a minute. I will pause and hold so that I don't spoil it. So here are the 3 trivia questions. There are 4 QBs who have beaten all 32 teams. Who are they? None of them are active. Here's the second trivia question. There are 4 active quarterbacks who have beaten 31 teams. Who are they? And the third question, there are 3 active quarterbacks who have beaten 30 NFL teams. Who are they? Pausing. All right, spoiler alert. I'm going to give you the answers. The 4 quarterbacks who have beaten all 32 teams: Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre. All of those made sense except for Brees. For a second, I went, wait a minute, he only played for the Saints. No, he didn't. If you remember early on, he played for the Chargers, and I want to say he was supposed to play for the Dolphins. Surprise, they blew it, and he ended up going to New Orleans. So those are the 4 answers for that question. Here are the answers. There are 4 active quarterbacks who have beaten 31 teams. Aaron Rodgers, he hasn't beaten the Packers. He didn't the other night. Patrick Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and so Russell Wilson has not beaten the Seahawks. Mahomes has not beaten the Chiefs. Okay. Matt Stafford has beaten even his former team, the Lions. He just hasn't beaten the damn Steelers. And then lastly, there are 3 active quarterbacks who have beat 30 teams in the NFL. Those are Josh Allen, my boy. He has not beaten the Eagles or obviously the Bills. Joe Flacco has not beaten the Ravens that he used to be on or the Seahawks. And Kirk Cousins, making a little appearance here, has not beaten the Bengals or the Chiefs. And there you have it. And with that, I say goodbye to you. It is Mike Brindisi, your host of GNY Sports, a side quest of Good News York. You can follow me on all socials at MikeBTV. And if you enjoy this show or Good News York, you can find both on all socials at Good News York and anywhere podcasts are listened to, streamed, downloaded. I will see you next week. There goes my pen. That's all. GNY Sports. See ya.